Ingrid Solheim was born in the rugged Lofoten Islands, off the northern coast of Norway. She lost her mother at the age of 7 and grew up with her father, Erik Solheim, a fisherman with rough hands, a colder voice, and a heart that beat in rhythm with the tides. Her childhood unfolded in the shadow of fjords, shaped by long winters and longer silences. While other children played in the village square, Ingrid wandered the pine forests alone. She avoided people, distrusted kindness, and found comfort only in books and the whisper of the wind through trees. When the time came for university, she went south to the city, but it felt like exile. The concrete, the noise, the crowds, they all suffocated her. As soon as she graduated, she packed her things and returned home. After her father passed away, she moved into an old seaside cabin nestled near the cliffs. Her life became a rhythm, fishing in the mornings, gathering mushrooms and herbs, preserving food for winter. It was quiet, predictable, but deep inside, a void remained, an ache without a name. A sense that something or someone was missing. It was late winter in 2011, just after a violent storm. Ingrid was combing the shoreline for driftwood when something strange caught her eye. Amid the frozen snow, barely visible, was a small white lump. She knelt down. It wasn't wood, it was fur. A tiny Arctic fox, cub motionless, eyes nearly shut, not even shivering. It looked dead. But then she noticed it, barely perceptible, a heartbeat. Ingrid didn't hesitate. She wrapped the fox in her coat and hurried home. She lit the stove, placed it on a blanket near the fire, and gently dripped warm milk into its mouth. She stayed up all night, hands wrapped around the fragile body, whispering encouragement. Hours passed. Just before dawn, the cub slowly opened its eyes, and in that moment, she gave it a name, Aria, like a melody, soft, graceful, and fleeting. In those first days, Aria was timid, barely more than a shadow. She flinched at sounds, crept silently along walls, and froze at the sight of movement. But Ingrid met fear with patience. Every morning she greeted her in the same gentle tone. Every night she hummed the same lullaby, one her own mother had once sung to her. These small rituals became Aria's safety net. As the months passed, trust bloomed. The fox began roaming the cabin freely, often trailing Ingrid like a silent shadow. But there was something more, something uncanny about her. Presence. Aria didn't behave like an ordinary animal, she sensed things. Before storms rolled in, Aria grew restless. If Ingrid had a nightmare, she'd wake to find the fox gently nudging her awake. Her eyes, they didn't just observe, they understood. For the first time in years, Ingrid wasn't alone. March 2013. Ingrid set out for her usual morning hike, descending into the lower valley with Aria by her side. The sky was calm, but mountain weather is a trickster. Without warning, the snow beneath her feet gave way. The ice cracked, and she plunged into a frozen riverbed. Her ankle twisted sharply, maybe broken. Pain seared through her. No one was around, no signal. Snow began to fall harder. She screamed once, then twice. No response. Minutes passed. Her limbs grew heavy. The cold crept in. Aria stood beside her for a long moment. Then, like a streak of wind, she vanished into the snow. Aria raced to the cabin, empty. Then she sprinted to the village path. Through the thickening blizzard, her cry rang out, a high, eerie sound. A villager heard it and froze. At first, he thought it was a wolf. But then he saw the small white shape darting through the snow. It was Ingrid's fox. Aria ran, stopped, looked back, pulled at the man's coat. Hesitant but compelled, he followed. They reached the valley. Aria was circling a collapsed patch of snow, barking urgently. Underneath it, they found Ingrid, barely conscious, body beginning to shut down from hypothermia. Thanks to Aria, she was saved. Ingrid spent weeks in the hospital. All she thought about was Aria. When she returned home, the first thing she did was call for her, but Aria was gone. No tracks, no sound, nothing. She waited days, then weeks. At last, she understood. Aria had chosen freedom. 1 year later, on the morning of the season's first snowfall, Ingrid opened her door to find a tiny Arctic fox cub curled up at her doorstep. Small, blinking, and unsure, and behind the trees, a familiar figure, Aria. They locked eyes. Then Aria turned and walked into the white, her figure fading like music at the end of a song. This time, it was goodbye. Years passed. Ingrid raised the cub and named him Lumi, meaning snowlight. He grew to be just like his mother, quiet, loyal, and wise beyond words. The villagers began calling Ingrid the Fox Woman. Some believed her story, some laughed it off. But one thing remained certain. The truest bonds with nature are not forged through words, but through loyalty, silence, and time. And some melodies, once heard, never truly fade.